Go do it. It doesn't have to be your whole life, and you don't have to only do that. You're not a pussy if it's not for you, and you're not less of a musician if you decide that you don't want to play Mr. Brightside for a living and that actually you'd rather work in a shop and write your own tunes. You're not more of a musician if that's what you want to do either. You're not less of a musician for deciding, actually, I think I'd just like to play other people's stuff at events that people are actually going to show up to.
Hi and welcome to Season 2 of Big Gig Energy, a podcast by musicians for musicians, helping you get bigger gigs no matter what level you're at. I'm your host, Steve Leggett, and with over a decade of experience as a professional musician playing everywhere from pubs and functions to travelling the world in a ukulele boy band, I understand that going pro is often where the challenge really begins. But I'm here to help. Where Season 1 was primarily a manifesto explaining my personal take on what it takes to make it in what can be an extremely unforgiving industry, Season 2 will feature a whole ton of awesome guests that all musicians can learn from. So whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this season will hopefully be of use in helping you unleash your own big gig energy to work and play better in the music industry. So let's get to it. Well, hello there, and welcome to another Big Gig Energy interview episode. The next few interviews escaped the bounds of my usual 40-minute or so structure, so I've split them up into a few two-parters. First, we have guitarist Sam Cummings, then multi-instrumentalist Tom Favell, and then bassist Dave Butterworth. Sam Cummings is in many ways a relic from another age. In an era of modern music, modern musicians and ampless setups, Sam is 70s rock personified, and more often than not will bring a full valve Marshall Plexi to a function gig. He's been on a bit of a journey over the last few years. After spending his entire working life as a full-time professional musician, he's currently studying towards his long-term goal, and I suppose exit strategy, of becoming a university lecturer, coaching new generations of musicians. In this first part, we'll discuss the nature of live music, his career history, and how to know when you're officially a professional. Quick warning here that this episode features some extremely strong language from the start, just like real life, I guess. So let's get to it. Yeah, here we are then at my secret lair. Welcome, Sam Cummings, to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
It's all right. Thanks for having me.
Obviously, you are guitar god extraordinaire for predominantly the Funtime Frankies, but various other bands as well.
Yeah.
Who else are you currently working with?
Oh, Christ. So, that's good. I like to start things with, like, mild profanity. We'll start at Christ, because I feel like that's upset maybe some of the Christian listeners.
Okay.
And then what I'll do from there, take the Lord's name in vain. I'll just upgrade and I'll just start dropping harder words as we go.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We'll finish with like a solid C-bomb at the end and we'll see where we get to.
Just build our way up.
Yeah. We're just going to work our way in, and at some point I'll stick in like a Mamma Mia Mario reference or something. It'll be great. So stick around. What was the question?
The question. So, what's your career as it currently stands? Who are you currently working with? What you got on at the moment?
Yeah. So, I work with the Funtime Frankies a lot. That's been really cool. I've been doing that for a long time. The guys that run it are some of my best friends, and I used to live with them. They're really great guys. It's a good company to work for. They are legends, and I'm really, really happy that we're still cooking. And then I also work for, and this is for anyone listening that's not a musician, which I don't imagine is many of you, but still, it's very typical that you have to work for multiple bands, because you're very, very lucky if you're in one thing that is enough work all the time. I think generally it's better to spread yourself a little bit thinner, like the multiple streams of income thing, which I'm segueing into lovely soon, because we'll get there. But even with bands, it's a good idea to do. There's one called the Malthouse Boys. That was entirely thrown together by an agency, and the guys in it I really liked. I say liked with the past tense because one of them left, but the drummer Ed is still an absolute legend, and he carried on when Sam left, and so we still do that with Nick Southwood.
Oh, cool,
yeah, he's like, I dragged him in as soon as we got the opportunity to, because it's always fun, and the three of us are complete degenerates as well, so you can imagine the conversations that happen. It's really bad. It's very funny. And then that band also, because that was done during the zeitgeist of the Mumford & Sons thing, so everyone was saying, which is really funny about that band, I used to take two setups. So I'd do a full acoustic setup with like an acoustic amp and like an acoustic guitar, and I have to get that not to feed back on a loud stage and all that, and I hated it. And we would do that, and I'd have an electric rig as well, and we'd do, the first set would always be like, you know, folky acoustic stuff that people would largely roundly ignore and not react to, and then just want all the party stuff.
Yeah.
And then one day, and this is an actual quote that happened, I was setting all the stuff up, and the client had booked us, and he came up to me and he goes, "Oh, you're not going to do any of that acoustic shit, are you?" And I looked at him straight in the face, and I was like, "Well, I mean, it's what you paid for, but no, if you don't want to." He's like, "You just play AC/DC." I was like, "I am your man. This is fine."
That's perfect.
Yeah, excellent. You're the kind of client I can get on with. And so that basically then prompted me. I had to bully the agency into paying for it, really, because they weren't sure, but I was right. I was saying that the rock thing is starting to come back, because the stuff that we were listening to when we were kids,
right,
these people are now getting married. So the Mumford & Sons thing is over. Stopped making Mumford bands. Like, go on a live network and have a look at how many Mumford bands there is. It's so silly. And we were like one of the last ones as well, so we were on the tail end of that trend. It did well enough, but I said to them, I don't think we're going to have that much coming up, so if you want bookings, we should do a rock band, which is basically what we all do anyway, because it's me, Nick and Ed, we're all massive rock players, so why are we not doing that? And people don't really do it at the moment, so I was like, we could be at the beginning of this one, we were at the end of the other one, so that's called The Buzzards, and
nice.
That does like heavier rock stuff, and a bit of the pop punk wave is starting to inexorably
at last
march forward, yeah, and you've got all like Joe is doing his Karash thing and all that, and that's doing really well, which is super cool. But I think that thing of like everyone's just suddenly realising, oh, hold on, everyone that was listening to Blink-182, they're all getting married now, so maybe they want to hear it, and we're starting to get it with the Buzzards as well. We tried to be more of a hard rock thing, like ideally we do like Queens of the Stone Age, Thin Lizzy, like Metallica, whatever, but we just had a bunch of clients just say, oh, we want The Offspring, we want this, we want this, we want this. I was like, that's absolutely fine, and we've just been learning it. So I think that's more and more becoming the shape of where those bands are going to go, and by those bands I mean wedding function bands in the future. I think your Van Marie is pretty locked in, but then all the small things I think is probably going to be your next big wedding standard and those types of things. And I know Joe and crew are doing duality on a wedding gig, but I don't think that's going to be standard. I feel like they found a niche that they work in rather well. I don't know if Slipknot's going to take over everywhere. I don't have to worry about that, but with my 9-string into drop Z probably isn't the future for me. But it's cool that I think we're starting to recognise the next set of trends. And then I also just work for, I was just working for anyone that needed me, and I was doing a lot of Depp stuff. I'd be lying if I say I do that now, because when people ask, I tend to make an excuse as to why I'm not free and don't do it, which I've massively just called myself out there, but it's fine, I don't mind, because I'm busy doing the studying. And I realised Depp gigs, I had to make a judgment between, is it worth having 200 quid and spending ages being stressed about learning a bunch of stuff and working with a bunch of people you don't really know and all the rest of it for that kind of money with that kind of time, or is it worth not doing any of that and writing an essay?
Yeah.
And I think the second answer is better. So I've been avoiding them.
Yeah.
But you worry that saying no all the time means that no one's ever going to call you for a gig again.
It's tricky.
So you've got to lie.
Yeah.
So you go, oh, I'm sorry, I'm already out on that day. I'm not. I plan to play Helldivers and write an essay and order a Domino's, and you don't need to know that.
Yeah, but I think it's important to turn stuff down as well, because it like you say, it's not just the 200 quid for the gig, it's the gig and the extra prep you've got to do.
Yeah.
Like if you get a Frankie's gig, in the next 10 minutes, you could go, you'd know the set backwards, go do it, it's done, easy.
Yeah, I could forget the lyrics to every one of those songs right now, because that's what I do all the time. I don't know the real words anymore.
That's your pre-gig warm-up, just like cleanse your mind of all the words. And,
just go up there and be like, I've played this song 56 trillion times, couldn't tell you how it starts. I've got to sing it in 3 seconds, let's see what comes out.
Yeah.
That wasn't it, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my standard manoeuvre. I'm getting so bad for lyrics these days, I forget them all. But don't worry about it, I'm great, honestly, I promise you. If you listening to this being like, I might hire him, just do it, see what comes out, you'll be fine.
I love your substituted lyrics whenever they come up, and the fact that no one ever seems to pick up on them outside of the band.
Yeah, except for the one time, which I won't give the details of exactly what they were because they were gross, but we were doing I Kissed a Girl, this was a while ago because that was a big tune a while ago, and I drop in something grim, and I look over at the bride and groom who have shocked, horrified expressions on their faces. I was like, oh no. Dear, I think the jig's up. They did think it was really funny. They said afterwards, like, oh, your lyric changes were interesting. I was like, oh no. And they said it was funny and they enjoyed it, but just watching them when they realised. My favourite not grim one that I can actually repeat, because a lot of the people, like, if you're listening to this, like, I can't say it because I either swear or I make like mega innuendos that are really, really gross and like boy humour, so I'm not going to defile this podcast with it. But my favourite one was doing Love Machine by Girls Aloud.
Nice.
And you do the bridge, and I was like, come take my hand, understand I'm your man, my name's Sam and I need you tonight, which is fine, but it's not that clever. And then it was
wholesome.
Like, yeah, and then what's it, come make my dreams only hard as it seems, I'm a robot, I'm Optimus Prime. I like that one.
Yeah.
And I'm
good, clean fun.
Yeah, good, clean fun. And then follow it up with talking about something that would get you arrested. It's always a good time.
Yeah. I loved it. I love hiding them in plain sight. With Ukebox, we used to do Country Roads years back. And when it came to we do like an a cappella verse, and instead of West Virginia, we'd all sing Wet Vagina.
Nice.
And it was great because so often people just wouldn't realise. They'd be that far gone, they wouldn't notice you say it. And then every now and again, there'd be like one person in the front going, oh, hang on a minute. And then by that point, the song's moved on.
Yeah.
And they've not had time to question it.
That's my favourite bit.
It's like Fight Club where they're putting like dick stills into the films. And people are like, did I see that? No. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah, no, I think basically the whole thing is that I just get to feel a little bit naughty because I'm swearing tee-hee and no one's... You're doing it in front of people to their faces, and because they're not fully listening, which is not their... It's not a criticism, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm so cool. It's that people aren't fully listening because they can hear the song in their head as well, so they're like listening to that. They don't know that I'm singing about someone's cock. Like, they just think I sang the actual lyrics to... Living on a Prayer.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to hold on to what we've got. It doesn't even matter if you've got a huge cock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one's ever going to hear that except when they do. But it's still funny to us because you play them 5 trillion times a year and we're also children. So
yeah, completely.
Yeah, I think that's kind of everything. I'm studying, so like that is a lot of my brain space.
Of course.
Taken up. But yeah, that's kind of my career, and it kind of has always just been that, like, working as kind of random guitarist for hire number 2563. Like, I'm not going to do the Nile Rodgers thing of like, you might not know me but you have heard me. You probably haven't. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I have paid the bills through it, so it's fine.
That's what matters, though. That's what a lot of people just aim towards. Like, I know myself, and I think probably yourself at some point, you just say, I just want to be a professional musician. I don't mind how well known I am. I just want to be able to pay my bills playing music.
Yeah. Well, I think I'd handle being famous terribly, so I'm quite glad it never happened. Because I'm already enough of a mess without adding in easily available heavy drugs. Might be terrible. But yeah, I think I always just wanted to be. I started out just wanting to be a professional guitarist, whatever that meant, and as to whatever level I could get to was what I wanted to do. And really, I just like playing guitar, and when I started out, it was bass. I mean, looking at it now, from the beginning, it was... I started, and I'm so mad that this wasn't better. My first instrument was guitar when I was probably 5 at school, and we had now she's probably dead, and she's definitely not going to hear this, and they say you don't speak ill of the dead, but I don't follow convention, so I will. She was shit as a teacher.
Right.
And she wasn't a very good guitarist either, but she was really bad as a teacher. Now, she was a nice lady and she meant well, and all that, but she was just a crap teacher, and I think being a crap teacher is really easy to do, and I don't think people understand just how important being a good teacher is, and how to get people to want to do an instrument, because learning an instrument sucks. It's not fun, because it doesn't sound good, and it hurts. So, like, why would you? Well, you do it because you hook them. She never hooked us. So she had us playing, like, country songs I didn't care about, like old country and western tunes that I don't... I'm a kid, I don't care about that. Like, at the time, I was listening to, I don't know, the Backstreet Boys or whatever. I wasn't really listening to music that much when I was a kid. I didn't really hear it. So you hear whatever's on the pop charts, which was the 90s. So it was probably some boy band somewhere. Probably start there, or introduce people to AC/DC or something, I don't know. And have them play something like that, and you can go, look, it sounded a bit like that thing on the radio, and then you'll be like, oh, sweet, I get this.
Yeah.
And then you're willing to put the work in. Now, I'm only mad at her because if I'd actually been hooked at 5, I'd be good. Whereas instead I've only got this to deal with. You know what I mean? So, like, Steve Lukather is safe, and that's unfortunate for me. Because he's really good and I'm a bit shit, but it's fine, don't worry about it, I've got nicer hair. And so I've got more of a beard and he can suck it. But yeah, like, that was the first, like, foray into it, which didn't last. Also, and this feeds into what we were talking about when we weren't playing this, just that instruments are so easy to get hold of now, and they're all good. Because my first guitar was a Spanish nylon string thing with a massive big old plank wide neck, and an action that, looking back on it now, was terrible, and I had to try and get noise out of that and make it work, and it was crap. Like, obviously I wasn't going to enjoy that, but also it doesn't sound cool. Like, no disrespect to Spanish guitars, I know loads of great classical players and it is mega, and I do really think it sounds great. But when you're learning, it sounds really uninspiring, and electric guitar's easier to make sound good because overdrive exists, and you can stick it into an amp and it sounds a bit like the thing off the telly you just watched. And isn't that more fun? So I think that kind of didn't help either. So I quit real quick. I managed about 6 months, and I didn't like practicing, and I hated it. Also, I was told to practice, and I'm a bit... I don't really like being told what to do, so oppositionally defiant is what they call it, isn't it? Yeah, I'm a massive contrarian anyway, because of the way my brain's built. So when they told me to practice, now I don't want to. And so you'd get that as a thing, and then I dropped that, and then I probably didn't really look more into music, although people noticed I could sing, because I could pitch. So I ended up in, like... when we do school plays, I'd be in the chorus.
Oh, cool, yeah.
So that was something, but I didn't think anything of it, because I just thought people could do that, because I could do it.
Yeah.
And you don't think anything of it. So you're just singing, and people say, oh, you've got a good singing voice. And I don't care at this point about any of that, and I think Transformers are really cool, and I like playing Street Fighter on my Super Nintendo. I'm not really bothered about this music thing, so I didn't really care. And then I got to middle school, and in year 6 or 7, they noticed I was tall, because I'm 6'4" now, and I was born 6'4". So I was asked... Well, no, I wasn't asked. I was instructed that I would be playing the upright bass. And to report to the school orchestra, which was like, what, 2 violins, some poor girl had been saddled with a flute, which is a great instrument. I'm not saying it's a bad instrument, but I'm saying she didn't want to play it and she couldn't. And I think we had a cello. I was the bassist, and then we had someone that said they do percussion, and they didn't know what they were doing either. That was our orchestra, a banging orchestra. Obviously that was terrible. But I was learning bass, and I had my first encounter with jazz through that, and heard Charlie Parker and went, this is kind of cool, and this is upright bass, so maybe I could do something with this. Took it to my teacher, who, again, really nice guy, but I said, and this is the importance of being a good teacher, I said, I kind of want to do jazz. And I realised that's weird, because I'm a year 7 kid, so I don't even know how old that is in like real numbers, but I'm like not old, and I'm talking about wanting to play bebop, which I didn't know was called bebop, but Charlie Parker's one of the original like boppers, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that, and he said to me, yeah, you can learn that once you've learned real music, and kept me on the classical path. And me hearing that, I just went, well, real music sucks. I don't want to do real music. I'm out. And so I lost interest again. And then I had a good music teacher in high school, Mr. Cope. See how long he named the good ones. And he was a legend and made us play instruments for just a class assignment. You had to put on a performance. And so I was like, well, I'll just play guitar. I can figure out how to do a chord. And so I looked on. How did I even do it? Yeah, it might have been like the early internet where I went and looked at what a chord shape was. I was playing power chords with, for people that can't see, because that's all of you, in black and white. That's the Red Bull. I was doing it wrong, like first finger doing the root, and then second and third, like, because I didn't know that you would be able to put the third in with the middle finger. Like, why would I don't know what a third is.
Why would you group them that way?
Yeah, and I don't know what a third is at this point, or how you build chords. I just knew that the sound, so I was doing power chords the wrong way, and so like did that. And we did Teen Spirit,
Nice.
Me and a friend, and he played bass, and I taught him how to do that because I could hear it, and didn't really think anything about the fact that I'd just picked up instruments by ear and figured out what they were and shown someone how to do that. I just thought that would be a thing people could do. When I'm telling him about the bass, because it's the he goes up a tone to the third, and I was like, oh, can you not hear that he's moving to that note there? And I was like playing the thing, and he couldn't pick it up because he's not a musician, he doesn't know. And that's when I started to learn that like people's ears don't work the same. Or no, I didn't really even pay attention to that. I just thought it was weird that other people couldn't hear that, or weren't paying attention enough, or didn't have the also, like, I see colours when I hear music, and I also thought that was entirely standard for a long time. I used to get really annoyed that people wouldn't play stuff more green.
That's amazing. That's something I'm sure Hendrix used to have. That is synesthesia, isn't it?
Yeah, synesthesia. Yeah. It's very mild. Like, I know guys that have really strong synesthesia where they literally see, like, in perfect pitch, and they'll see sheet music for everything they hear.
That's
they
insane.
like C notation drive them mad. So I'm glad I'm not. But I get like vibes and like hear stuff in colours, and I like stuff to look right. That's when I know I've got it good. And I used to get really wound up with my mates because I thought that when you turn the lights off when you watched the concerts, because I played in a proper orchestra as well. I played in the youth orchestra in Staffordshire, and because I could read back in the day. I can't now, but I could read bass clef. I've forgotten it all now. But I was in an orchestra, and I thought the reason you turned the lights down was so everyone could see all the colours above it.
Wow.
Which I know there's a few other people that have said stuff like that, but yeah, I thought that was the deal. And then when we were in one of my first like high school bands, we were practicing in like a dark. We'd practice on this old farm, like till really late. The neighbours would call us up and be really pissed off because it was like 2 a.m. and we're still playing. And they would call, and we would turn the lights off in there, and I'd get really annoyed at my mate for doing Wishing Well, free. And I'm like, oh, it's an open G, that G. He's like, no, it's a power chord. I was like, no, it's an open G. It's very clearly an open G because you can hear all the notes in it, and also it's green. And he was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I was like, well, it's green. Can you not see it? Yeah. He's like, no. I was like, all right, cool. Anyway, ignore that. And I realised that wasn't standard, and I just thought I'd never speak about it ever again to them because I thought it was weird.
Wow.
But yeah, Mr. Cope played as Led Zeppelin Heartbreaker was the exact moment, and I went, that's super cool. And whatever that instrument is, the low one, I was like, well, I can already play bass. Couldn't because I hadn't played in ages. But I was like, well, what's the difference between the thing I used to play and the thing that he's playing? Bet that's well easy.
Yeah.
I'll do that. And so I asked Dad if I could have a bass, and he said yeah, and he bought it for me, and I didn't touch it for 6 months. Literally didn't touch it, didn't even take any of the wrapping off it. But I did think this was something I thought I wanted to do. And then one day I was like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to grab that bass and just like start learning a song. I'm going to play along to my CD player. And I was a weird kid, so I was listening to Dire Straits as a like year 8 high schooler. And I was like, oh, I'll play Sultans of Swing then. That seems kind of easy. And what, on the internet that exists, I can get these things called tabs. And they give you the numbers, so I don't have to read. Sweet. And I just went on and was like, okay, cool. So I'll get the tabs for these songs I think are cool. And I'll try and learn what's going on. And I learned Sultans of Swing. And I was super excited to have played a song. And that was the moment when I realised that this was something I really enjoyed. And before this, I actually wanted to be in the military.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's quite a pivot then.
Well, yeah. So I'm a huge nerd and I'm neurodivergent, so I get special interests. And when I get really into something, I get really obsessed with it. So ask me about Warhammer. That'll be a whole other podcast. I can fill it. But like, I was like that with planes and tanks and guns and stuff. I just thought they were really... I still do think they're really interesting. I just don't love the application of them. But I like that they exist, and I think they're really cool. But like, I was really into that, so I figured, well, if I like planes and tanks and guns, where can I go that has planes and tanks and guns? Well, it's the military, right? So maybe I'll join the Air Force or something and be a helicopter pilot, because I've got glasses, so you can't be fast jets. You can now, but you couldn't back then. And also, I was given advice by a pilot who was like, fast jets are super cool, but you don't get to fly them much because they're expensive.
Right.
So he's like, so if you want to fly a lot, it's like, you want to go slower planes or you want to go helicopters? He's like, they let the helicopter pilots do all sorts of stuff. I was like, okay, maybe I'll do a helicopter. And then I was chatting to a few people about that and like how to get involved in that. And I needed grades for certain things, so I took a lot of grades in school that like, I should have done more music and art focused stuff, because as it happened, I didn't ever think I was any good at art stuff. And then in high school, learned I was. But I didn't take the GCSE because you can't use an art GCSE to get into the military. They don't care.
Yeah.
They want English, maths and science, and
STEM
they want
stuff.
Yeah, they want the standard stuff, and they want it to a good standard if you want to be an officer, which I did because I wanted to fly.
Yeah.
And I was also really struggling in school because I hated being there. I had a lot of mental health troubles. I was depressed, all the rest of it. I was throwing it away. I didn't get the support I needed. It's not anyone's fault. I'm not mad about it. I know this isn't a therapy session, but it's kind of it's useful to talk about.
It's important though, because it's the British. Well, I imagine most schooling systems, they're not set up for neurodivergent people at all.
No, it was really tough, and especially I know now people know it's a thing, and I mean there's still people that give you a bit of shit for like not understanding stuff, but like it's more accepted now that you're different. But there's a lot of stuff I genuinely can't like. So I'm not great at social cues, which has its upsides. As in, I mean, I was winding Joe up with this because we were playing D&D, and he started to make jokes about me having a mask because my character wears a physical mask, and he started to make jokes about, oh, it's not the only one. I was like, oh right, cool. So we're talking about like the mask that I've built here. You see, the thing is, Joe, is that I literally cannot be bothered by these people looking at me like it's weird because I can't perceive it, so I can't. But you're looking very uncomfortable, so I think one of us has lost this exchange. But it's that thing of like you're a bit different, and your brain works a bit differently, and especially back then, it wasn't a thing, and so I was just stupid and playing up, and I heard people say that. Oh, Sam's a clever kid, but I wish he would apply himself because he's wasting everything. Yeah. Like, what a shame, he's just a joker. And, I mean, I believe him. Like, sure, they're my teachers, right? Like, they must be right.
Why would you doubt them? Yeah.
Well, yeah, like, they have to be right. They know what they're talking about. I just clearly am a bit dumb. Still something I have to, like, kind of shake off, because it's, again, being a good teacher, hard. You have no idea how formative those things you're saying really are. I was told I would amount to nothing, which I still kind of believe. So but
it's hard to shake when you hear that from somebody in a position of authority at a very formative stage, particularly like during your teens when you're sort of working stuff out, and it's a horrible time to exist at the best of times anyway, without having all that said. And it does stay with you.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've made peace with it all. It's fine. I'm not dead, so I must have done something right. But he said before the bombs drop. But it's that thing of like, well, yeah, maybe I'll just. I was trying to be a pilot, but I obviously wasn't going to make it because I wasn't going to get the grades. But then, this wasn't why I picked up a bass. I picked up a bass because I thought it'd be interesting, and just immediately upon learning that one song. And I'm sure I was not very good, because you can't be, you've just started. I went, oh, hold on. I don't care about anything else now. I want to do this. And that was kind of the big turning point. And because of the way that I am, like it was literally like, this is my entire thing now. I'm going to learn this really hard. And so I just started practicing a ton and working to get good. And I put a band together. I just made a band one day. Literally like, oh, you play guitar. Do you want to be in a band? He was like, I was like, cool. Let's do rehearsals. And so, because that's just the kind of guy I am. And so, yeah, that was basically the start of that. And then fast forward a bunch of years, like, I had that band. It was my first band. We were terrible, but, it's fine. Like, you're supposed to be. And then... But I, obviously had a bunch of potential. I got a really good teacher, Paul Adams, wicked teacher, great guy, mega bass player, who like broke me out of all my bad habits, gave me a really good mindset on stuff, really helped shape the kind of being a professional. And he was in a band called The States, so I ended up joining. He had to leave, and so they asked me if I would join. And then the two guys in that, Dave and John Cottrell, like kind of mentored me, showed me how to actually be a professional, like to do it for real. Because I was studying in City College Manchester, which with Martin Moskrop, from yeah. And he was the head of that course. And there's Pete Hughes as well, wicked keys player, and he plays with Ollie Collins and all that in town, but he's a mega keys player and a great teacher. It was a really cool course and I really liked it, but I didn't stay in it for long because I got a phone call literally one day in a thing, and it was Ray from Stoke, and he's bass playing at the time for them. He's a guitarist, but he would play bass, and he called me and went, "Is this Sam?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I'm in a band called The States and they need a bass player and I can't do it. Do you want the gig?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure," because they're a pro band. So and he's like, "Cool, I'll tell them and we'll see if I'll pass your number on and we'll get an audition or whatever." And I kind of just did it. And before you knew it, they wanted an audition, because obviously like a 16, 17-year-old like clown, like I'm not gonna be any good. But they did it, and I got in, and then suddenly I was in a pro band, and I left. So I just left college, and went and did this, which I worried was illegal for a time. Now that I think about it now, but I think the law changed way after me, because I think I'd have had to stay in legally before, like now.
Yeah.
But back then you could just leave.
Yeah.
Unless I did break the law, in which case this doesn't count as an admission and you can't prove I did it. That's all I'm saying.
It could be a story told for entertainment purposes only, which has... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the fact is, I've just said it, but the law has no evidence of it, so show me the footage, government. You can't. But they... Yeah, I moved on from that and kind of just got to it. And that's been it from there. So I've been gigging since I was 14, and gigging like pro since I was like late 16, and that was kind of it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's
you
just
all
all
took the plunge. You just went and just did it.
Well, yeah, I mean, so that's the thing, is that when people say, "Oh, how do you become a professional musician?" Everyone's going to say, and I've noticed a trend for this, the advice everyone gives you is just the thing they did. Because there is no career path or set out way to do it. I mean, that's the same for everything, but especially in music, people go, "Oh, you don't want to do that, you want to do," tells you the thing they did.
Got you, yeah.
Which, fine, but also, like, everything I'm about to say, take it with a fat pinch of salt, because it's just the thing I did, and I don't think it's what people should do. It's just what I did, or what I would say to people when they're like, I want to be a professional musician, how do I do that? It's like, well, it's quite easy. What you do is you stop doing everything else and you do gigs for a living, and if you're any good at it, you won't starve. Which,
Yeah.
But there's no... What do you do? Like, what was the day I turned pro? There wasn't one really, was there? There was just... I just went, cool, I'm in the band, I guess. And I've got a gig I need to go to, and I'm going to get paid for it. It wasn't any different to what I was doing in pubs. It was just more, and the stakes were higher, and I nearly got sacked because I couldn't fucking handle the workload. But yeah, it was that thing of like, that's what happens when you just do it. I mean, I'm looking at it now with, there's some guys at uni that, I mean, they're all trying to be professionals, but some of them are actually trying to, it's the path they want to go.
Right.
And they're going through the same thing I did, which is there's never enough gigs at that age, and you've got no money, and you don't know what's next. And I'm like, you do realise you're not trying to become a professional musician at this point. You are actually, like, you're doing it now. You're just not doing it enough.
Yeah.
Which is not your fault. It's just that bit happens over time. And it's that thing of like, someone was like, oh, how do you just become a pro? I'm like, well, the thing is, you just say you're doing it, and then that's it. Yeah. There's no other way to... Well, there's no badge, is there? It's not like Pokemon where you go to a gym and you're like, oh, I just need 6 pro badges and then I'll be the musician master. Like, it's not a thing. And there's no... Like, even though you can study it at a uni, you're not a pro once you finish.
That's very true. I suppose, yeah, if you study accounting at uni, you're not a professional accountant just because you've got the thing, have you?
But you can probably go into accounting after that quite easily, whereas, as in, like, officially, like, you can, the day you start as an accountant, either independently, like my accountant, who's a legend, or for a company somewhere because they need, I don't know, this is terrible because I'm not, you can see how little experience I have in the real world because I don't know how jobs work, but... You know, I account for Microsoft or whatever. I'm part of their accounts division, and that's the day you start, right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't get that.
There's not a day you start. There might be a first paid gig, I suppose, but there's not the first point where you earn enough that you can pay your rent from it, is there? It's like a fade in.
Yeah, and also, like, it's just, if it's working, then you don't die.
Yeah.
It's kind of it. It's like, welcome to being a self-employed person in an industry that's so nebulous and weird and the Wild West and unregulated that just kind of, oh, I must be all right at this then, because no one ever tells you you're any good. They just hire you again.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, I must be all right at this then because I don't have an empty diary, so cool, I guess. Yay.
Well, there you are. I think that's a good point to split the interview. Next week we'll discuss in more detail how Sam came to the decision to start studying towards a new career. And on the way, we'll discuss mental health during lockdown. Trigger warning in advance, as the episode contains a pasty-related mental health crisis anecdote. See you then. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Big Gig Energy podcast. This is the bit where I'm obliged to fish for engagement and stuff, so you can find me on Instagram as Big Gig Energy, that's BIGGIGENERGY, or you can get in touch via email at biggigenergy@gmail.com. I'll link anything relevant in the show notes below, but otherwise, if you've had any thoughts on this episode or would be interested in some one-to-one coaching for yourself and or your band, feel free to get in touch. Otherwise, do all the usual social media stuff, I guess, and let's keep the discussion going. Many thanks as ever to all my supporters and collaborators, and as always, best of luck with your next big gig.